Hello, everybody, and welcome to Yellowjackets Hive. I'm Medium Melanie here with,
I'm Emily.
and we are back with another specialty spill episode. Today, it is going to be all about Coach Ben Scott, one of the
Ooh.
few but fabulous male cast members in Yellowjackets. But before we dive into Coach Scott, we actually got a little bit of news, some new photos. Emily, what are we seeing here?
This is our first look at adult Lottie.
Yes. And boy, is she looking beautiful. Simone Kessel is absolutely stunning. And how would you describe her wardrobe, Emily?
Very the word ethereal comes to mind, like earthy, like in touch with nature.
Yeah, she's got a lot of the flowy clothes. Of course, they've got some yellow in there, which is very on brand for Yellowjackets. But, based on the article in Vanity Fair, it looks like Lottie may not be like the big bad guy after all.
I know. And if she's not, at least I was kind of assuming she was. So who is then? Like, a lot of people have been saying, like, maybe they think it could be Thaisa.
Thaisa, it could be Misty, it could be a collaboration amongst a few of them. But we do know Lottie was actually sent to Switzerland, which is maybe where she got her electroshock therapy after the Yellowjackets were rescued. And based on the article, they said that all of the survivors thought that she was still in Switzerland. So,
Yeah,
wow.
for like 25 years, they thought she was in Switzerland. That's crazy.
It is crazy. If you missed it, we actually dissected the season 2 teaser trailer. We've got that available at yellowjacketshive.com, so don't miss it. And as we get a full trailer and more promos, we're going to do some more dissections. So be sure to join us and subscribe so you get notifications.
Yes, and hi to D in the comments. Hello.
Yes. Hey, Dee. That's my friend Dana. Thank you for tuning in, Dana. Always good to have you here. And for anyone else that joins us in the chat, feel free to drop your questions, drop your comments, and we will try to discuss as many of them as possible. Okay. Well, as we get into Coach Scott, why don't we start with some other Yellowjackets news that involves him? And that is the casting of Francois Arnaud. And
Uh,
who is that gonna be?
he is going to be playing Paul, which, as we know from season one, that is Coach Ben's boyfriend.
Yes, and it looks like he will be joining the show for 4 episodes, which is not a lot of time.
No, it's
Not
not.
a not a lot of time. So what I would surmise maybe is that we see Paul more in either flashbacks or a dream or a hallucination
Yeah,
by Coach Ben. Do you think that is a possibility?
yeah. Or I think they might show like a little bit of what's happening back home, and maybe they show him in that sense. And I think we talked about this before. Like, since Ben isn't like out in the real world, like he would probably come across as like a concerned friend or something like that. But I think there's a possibility that they might show us something that's happening back at home too. We might see him that
Absolutely.
way.
I think that's very possible. It's possible that, all the condoms that Coach was bringing with him were maybe for him and Paul. Maybe Paul was going to be meeting him at Nationals and they were going to have a rendezvous weekend. We'll dive
Yeah.
into that a little bit more later. But just starting from like the very top of who is Ben Scott, right? He is played by Steven Krueger, and he is the assistant coach and the object of Misty's unrequited crush. There are a lot of Coach Ben and Misty moments throughout season 1, and yeah, we'll dive into those. And there was actually an interview with Steven Krueger, and he had pointed out, the very first time he actually read the pilot script for Yellowjackets, he said, "I remember the neck on my hair standing up." He told TV Insider. I can't imagine, getting that role and and diving right into it. I mean,
I
wow.
really wonder if I think in the interview he said he doesn't know what's going to happen to him. And I think he prefers it that way, which I think if I were playing that role, I might prefer it that way too, because it would make it a lot easier to be like genuine in the role if you don't know what's going to come next.
That's right. And, we did ask our Hive babes on Reddit, do you think Coach Ben makes it past season 2? And 647 votes said in total, 365 of those responded, it's not likely. 222, he makes it further than you'd expect. And 60 people were unsure. So, I mean, I personally cannot imagine him making it out of the wilderness.
No, I just can't see them going like where they go in the pilot if he's still around too. Like, although at the end of season 1, like he doesn't really hold much authority over them anymore, I still feel like if he was around, like they're not going to go down that road. So I feel like he needs to be gone.
Right. That makes sense. And, speaking of season 2, based on what Steven Krueger has read so far, he said, they got the first 2 scripts and read through them with the cast. Pretty incredible. I think people are in for a treat. And, this is, I think, something the other cast has mentioned and the show creators. There's always the worry coming off the success of a first season that the second season would be a letdown. And from what I've read, this is Steven Krueger, of those first 2 episodes, that's not going to be the case. I think we really found our groove. And, in that same article on TV Insider, he said, the interviewer said, winter's coming. What can you tease about where we left off? Emily, why don't you read what Steven Krueger said to that?
This is a whole new ball game. We are going into the winter time when the season ends with the first snowfall. This season will cover the winter months. It's going to get dire out there with little food and the challenge of staying warm and alive. A good general overall bird's eye view of the second season is it feels like producers love that we were the crazy show on TV and want to take that and double down.
I love the mentioning of doubling down because, as we know, season 1 was a little bit crazy, a little bit wild. And from what I've heard and read from all the cast members, season 2 is definitely going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And we got a glimpse of Coach Ben in some of the teasers and promos that have come out from Yellowjackets on Showtime. This is one of the photos where he's standing in the cabin, his hat's backwards, and he's speaking to the girls. And one of those girls, Emily, behind him, that looks like one of our new girls.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that is Jenna, and I think her last name is Burgess. And Sammy Henratty said in an Instagram story a couple weeks ago that we were going to be meeting some new cast members, and she talked about her, and she talked about Nuha, and she talked about Naya as well.
Yes. And this still in the second teaser they put out on Saturday this week, this appears in the teaser, and they're kind of chanting this buzz buzz buzz. It's not a cheer though. It's like more of a chant. And it's really interesting to see how it goes from a cheer of excitement to a chant of a group of dire people, or maybe a cult of adults chanting this in their masks when they're grown up and out of the wilderness. Another photo we saw from Coach Ben from the season 2 promo was him leaning against a wall with his beard, not looking great. What do you make of this, Emily?
He looks rough in this picture.
Yeah.
Like, real rough. Like,
yeah.
Something tells me this is like they're hurting for food or something like that. Like, or maybe this is like right after Jackie died. I don't know. Like, the look on his face, like he looks so defeated and like just miserable.
He does, he almost looks like he could be sick. Like maybe he has some kind of an infection. Maybe it's an infection that ends up killing him and, not Misty, as some people surmise. Ben could be Misty's potential first kill if she's a serial killer. But yeah, things don't look good. There was another shot, and actually, I'm not seeing the picture in here. That's my bad. Of him covering his ears.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what he's covering his ears from, but he doesn't look like he wants to hear whatever is being heard out there right now.
Somebody on Reddit was joking around and they were like, Misty was singing to him again.
Oh my God. One of the best scenes of the season. We'll get into that one soon. And one more season 2 promo photo. This is the one where the girls are at the springtime table. They're all dressed up in their white gowns. The only male I see present in this photo appears to be Travis. I am assuming that's Travis
Yeah,
that's
I think it's
facing us on that
too.
back bench. And that's telling because, well, first of all, we should say that this photo, we don't know if this is something that actually happens or if this is some kind of a dream or a premonition or a vision. What do you think about this, Emily? What does it mean?
I think that it might be like some kind of a hallucination type thing. Like it mirrors what we see in the pilot, like where they're having their feast, where they're eating what we assume is a person, even though we don't really know for sure yet if it is or not. I think when that happens, like this is the way that they imagine themselves, like as a way to like cope with what they're actually doing.
Right, kind of an escape from reality.
Yeah.
But telling in this escape from reality is that again, Coach Ben is not pictured here. So
No.
I feel like that could be a telling thing that he does not make it out of season 2 alive.
Javi's not in that picture either.
Oof, good call. Yeah, there's only one male that is depicted there, and that does look to be Travis. So um, that is very fascinating.
Yeah.
Something that has been circulating around the Reddits is this photo from the pilot of the pit girl scene. And we can see what looks to be Coach's crutch hanging there from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, this was posted by Reddit user Palpitation Adorable 2. Thank you so much for that. Just wanted to give you some credit. But yeah, this theory says that he definitely does not make it out because they are showing his crutch, probably retired, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would agree. Unless like they made him a new one and it was a better one, but why would they put it like lining that pathway to a pit? Like that'd be just weird.
It is weird. So that would be interesting to see if he does make it out of the season or not. But that's a really keen eye for someone to pick up on that. Again,
Yeah.
the citizen detectives run strong within the Yellowjackets fandom, so really, really nice job pointing that out. And speaking of Coach Ben. Having had his leg chopped off by Misty, Steven Krueger kind of talked about how he did a lot of research. When you're playing a character who has a disability, he had to learn a lot about what the actual experience would be like to lose a leg. He talked about the physical side, the mental, and psychological side. He spent a lot of time in the months leading up to the first season just researching. He talked to people who'd gone through that experience, got very deep on Reddit threads over the course of months, and there were hours of prosthetics casting. Steven Krueger said he'd never been through that process. A lot of the physical stuff was considered. How are we going to make this work? What positions do I need to stand in? How do we hide the leg so we can take it out later with visual effects? And at the end of the day, he hopes he did it justice. He said it's a learning process, and even going into season 2 here. So, I think that's an interesting perspective. As an actor, you have to worry about so many
Yeah.
things, and that's like a whole added level and layer of the
Yeah.
part that you're playing. So,
Absolutely.
so props to him for really doing the research. I think it's important to be authentic when it comes to that. So, props to Steven Krueger. I think he handled it well, and
Yeah.
the show handled it well. So, I think that was very um,
Hello from Scotland, Mark O'Brien says.
Oh, hey, Mark. There we go. Popping in from Scotland. Love to see you watching. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark. That is awesome. Um, so there's actually a scene at the beginning of Yellowjackets season 1 where the girls, Coach Ben tells them to all take a knee, and in the photo, Thais is kind of like blocking out his other leg, and it
Mhm.
almost looks like he has one leg. Do you think that that was done intentionally as a mode of foreshadowing?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I feel like they were very meticulous with a lot of the things that they did, and they dropped Easter eggs all over the place, and you only pick up on them if you watch it more than one time.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I never noticed that. You were the one that pointed out to me. So, really nice eye, good citizen detective skills. Um, and in that photo, we see Ben and Misty standing next to each other. There is a lot that happens between Ben and Misty in season 1 of Yellow Jackets. Oh my God. I mean, she chops off his leg. Like, let's not forget that happened. Um,
She
you
kind
know,
of saved his life, though.
she did. I mean, she
Yeah.
totally did save his life. You are absolutely right. And I think she was the only one who is willing to swing that axe and
Oh, yeah.
chop a limb off. I mean, could you picture any of the other girls? Like maybe Thaisa, but I don't even think she had that in her.
Maybe Natalie, if like Natalie, like if he told her like you need to do this, like if Ben himself would have said like you need to do this for me, like maybe I could see Natalie doing it. But Misty did it like didn't say anything to anybody, just picked up that axe and went over and just like chopped it right off.
Oh my god. Oh my god. And that's just the beginning. I mean, she tries to grab his morning wood one morning and tries to molest him. He
Yeah.
says, do not fucking touch me, Misty. Do you understand? Misty helps him go to the bathroom in the woods during Bear Down, singing him some Breakfast at Tiffany's by Deep Blue something. That scene was something. Misty poisons him with her specialty. And you know, another interesting thing is that at one point, Ben obviously knows Misty likes him, but he plays along with it
I know.
and like
I
goes
know.
goes along with it. It's like almost like he's afraid of her, and he
Yeah.
thought that it would be easier to do.
Yeah.
In that TV Insider interview, they say Misty's hot for the teacher. Do you think that Ben made the right move playing along with her fantasy? Emily, do you want to read what Steven Krueger replied to that?
Sure. There are so many mental gymnastics that went into this. On one hand, it's the teacher student relationship. That would be inappropriate on a number of different levels. On another, Ben is hiding his sexuality. You go back to the time period this is taking place here. This is the mid 1990s in and around New York City. We're coming off the AIDS epidemic. As the teacher of high school students during that time, you certainly weren't allowed to be openly gay. It was a major life decision to keep it hidden and lie to fend her off or tell the truth. Then you wonder what her reaction is going to be to all of that. In various episodes through different scenes, we really get to see a lot of those angles and see Ben Scott thinking through all the possibilities of what could possibly happen. Then there's this hilarious part where it all comes out in one fell swoop due to a drug-induced rant.
Oh my god, which is one of my favorite scenes
Yeah.
during Doom Coming. Coach ends up completely coming out, and gosh, that quote is like one of my favorites. Here, let me
Yeah.
pull that one up here. It is um let's see. He ends up saying, "He's my boyfriend, Misty. I'm gay. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. I'm gay. I'm gay. I'm gay. Do you hear that, Mom, Dad, all my furry forest friends? I'm gay." I loved that. I absolutely loved that.
I did too. It made me laugh so hard.
Yes, and it came full circle within the Doom Coming episode, because at the beginning, Coach Ben actually congratulated Ty and Van for kind of like making their debut together at this
Yeah.
event, and I think maybe in a way that really resonated with him
Yeah.
and maybe encouraged him to actually end up coming out, which I imagine must have felt like so good.
That's what I was thinking too. I think that watching them be so open and proud about it like made him think like what am I hiding from out here anyways?
Right. And then, of course, like Misty, jumping his bones was like just a last straw. So he went from playing along to, saying he's gay. And, I don't think Misty really liked hearing that he was gay. So,
No. I feel like that's gonna backfire in his face like big time.
oh my God, total big time. Um, okay. So back to, let's see. Does Coach Ben die? Let's talk a little bit more about what the fans are saying about him making it out of this season. This Reddit user, Rosie Crone, said, I'd lay odds he dies, probably not killed outright, but in a way that somehow opens them for the door to start sacrificing others.
I think that might hold some water to it. Like, I've seen people say they think like he might tell them to sacrifice him because he knows that like keeping him alive like is going to be too hard for them. Like they're going to waste too many resources on him. It's going to take too much away from what they need to survive. And he might like be willing to sacrifice himself. I can't see him being like, yeah, just kill me, but I know that there are people out there that think that.
There definitely are. There are people on Reddit that can see Misty killing him before they see him taking his own life. Although, he's likely racked with a lot of guilt as well from Jackie's death. So, maybe that is something that leads him to kill himself. Or, maybe he gets some kind of infection. Or, again, like another Reddit user saying maybe Misty kills him in a fit of rage because she doesn't take it very well that he's gay. So that's definitely a situation. He comes out to Nat first is what we should say before, he does make the declaration to the rest. But there's a lot of Reddit discussion about Misty killing him and going back and forth. And then also, do they eat him or not? Like, is he the start of cannibalism? Is he the first one they eat? What does this theory say here? This Gibby 44, kind of a darker theory, but I think his rejection of her will make her go crazy. He's going to get another fatal injury, and she's just going to take care of him, and it will be her first kill. So, very interesting. Lots of speculation that Misty ends up killing him. So, I find that to be interesting. So just going through each episode a little bit, in the pilot, we talked about his crutch being in the opening scene. We talked about them taking the knee and the way that they filmed that. And gosh, why don't we talk a little bit about when Allie breaks her leg in the pilot and Misty comes rushing over. And then what does Coach say to her?
He says, hold on, I have to find it. Jesus, Misty, get the fuck out of the way. We need an ambulance. There's a phone in Bill's office. And Misty, like in that moment, Misty looks at him and she's like, you mean Coach Martinez? And he's like, yes, just go. Like, why are you being so weird about my word choice right now? But at the same time, it kind of was a little bit weird for him to address him by the name Bill to another student. That's a little weird.
Very weird. Like, did they have more going on? Maybe. We talked about the condoms. Is it possible that he had all those condoms because there was maybe something going on between the coaches? I mean, one thing we know is that there was definitely some kind of tension with the Martinez family before they left for the trip. I wonder if Bill's wife knows that he has like something going on, whether it's with a male or female, or maybe it's him and Coach Ben, and that's why he's got all the condoms. I don't know. But, we did ask some of our Reddit users, why did Coach Ben have so many condoms and what were his plans in Seattle? We got over 600 votes. The winner was actually 281 responders with random hookups were the reason he had so many condoms. It's possible, as per the other 239 responders, that said Paul was meeting him for a secret rendezvous. Of course, he's in the closet, so maybe, out of town is a better place for them to have this secret sex weekend. 66 people did reply. Maybe there's something with him and Coach Martinez. And then 37 responded something else. So random hookups was definitely the number one. But what's interesting is there was not online dating back then.
No.
So how do you get these random dudes? Like, I mean, gay bars, like
Yeah.
possibly, right?
And I think that Seattle has a very high, like there's a lot of gay people that live in the Seattle area, and especially back then it was like a really, really popular spot. So I think that would make the random hookups make a little bit more sense too.
Right. That does make sense. So, that whole condom thing is kind of a mystery. I do hope we end up finding the answer. Maybe again, Paul's meeting him there, and maybe Paul ends up being somehow integral in the rescue. Like maybe they don't show up and he, goes to report it. I don't know how it's all going to play out on the back end, but I really am dying to see what they can do in 4 episodes with Paul and what
Yes.
it will do to further Coach Ben's story.
Back to talking about Coach Ben being eaten for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Mark O'Brien said, think like the Andes crash. Coach Ben in that pick could be resigned to not making it and does suggest them to make use.
Alive, I do think that the creators did pull a little bit from Alive,
Yeah.
also from The Shining and some other sources. But you know what, Mark? That is very popular theory. I mean,
Yeah.
he absolutely, could get eaten. They have to make use, because I do think it's too soon for them to eat Jackie. But in the middle of the winter, I think, maybe by the time he dies, it's a decision that they're going to have to make peace with as a group
Yeah.
and, kind of figure it out. In that season 2 teaser, we did see Natalie like putting a small piece of something into her mouth. Perhaps that could be a piece of human. It looked like it was more ritualistic. Someone had mentioned like taking a communion type of thing. So maybe there's something to that. And maybe they do consume their first bite of human in season 2.
Maybe like the first time that they do it, like they make it like a communion. Like they turn the person into their communion, if that makes any sense.
They could. It does seem as things progress, they get highly ritualistic. They make these different rituals, sacrifices. So, everything they're doing probably becomes part of their existence out there. So
Yeah.
this could be one of their first, real rituals. Of course, they had the seance, which I wouldn't say was a ritual, but it's just another step in that direction. So
Absolutely.
be interesting to see how that pans out. Um, the dollhouse episode. When they are walking from the plane to the lake, they pass the carcass of a dead bear. And Coach says wolves can kill anything if the pack is big enough. Do you feel like that might be some kind of foreshadowing? Like maybe the girls adopt a wolf like behavior and hunt each other? What are your thoughts on this wolf quote?
Absolutely. I definitely think that it's foreshadowing in some type of a way. Like wolves are like so heavily featured in the first season period, with like Taissa seeing the wolves, like Van being attacked by the wolves, like
Javi and the wolf figurine that he carves that we later see in Adam's apartment.
yeah, they hear wolves when, like, before Van gets attacked, they hear the wolves howling. Like I feel like there could definitely be a connection between the way that they end up hunting each other and the way that wolves hunt in a pack, because a team is a pack in a sense, and they are a team. So that would kind of make sense.
It would. We've got a picture up right now of Javi's wolf figurine with Shauna's knife kind of like, stuck into the windowsill. It's facing outdoors. It looks cold. Shout out to Super Mind Freak on Reddit. This is your screen grab that we are showing. And while they're showing the wolf and the knife, they're playing tense and dramatic music. So I just don't think it can be a coincidence that we have so many wolf references. And
Yeah.
Taissa sees the wolf at least twice, right? She sees it when she's with Diane Raffleson, and then also at her house when
Mhm.
she looks out the window. And is that right before she sees the spill on
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All
Yep.
right. So, yeah, I have got to agree. I think that that quote definitely is foreshadowing something. And, again, like you said, it could be a metaphor. The girls are a soccer team. Inherently, teams are a pack. A wolf
Yep.
comes in a pack. So, we know they divide into cannibalistic clans. So maybe each pack goes their own separate direction. In terms of those packs, actually, we did get a look at a secondary shelter, or what we believe to be a secondary shelter from the season 2 teaser trailer. There's an airplane door at the entrance of it, and then it's like all built up around it.
Hmm.
So it could have been built up at the airplane and they just kind of used the door. It could be an underground like bunker or cold food storage or the mine that we saw in Lottie's vision. So
Yeah.
I think they're paving the way for the secondary shelter so that way each group has their own, their own home. So
Yeah. Because once they split, they're not all going to stay in the same place. So there has to be something else.
right. And maybe they alternate shelters. I think I brought this up on the teaser trailer. Maybe it's like Survivor, right? And whichever tribe wins that week, they get the immunity necklace, the necklace with the talisman on it, and they get to have like the good camp with like the fireplace and the cabin. And then the losers have to go back over to the airplane or secondary shelter, mine, whatever. Whatever is the least favorable shelters where the losers go to. This is just an idea I have. I don't
That
know.
would be something if they like had like a spoken agreement, like we won't attack each other, we can switch places, and it'll be like a mutual understanding kind of thing, and we only hunt each other on this day or something like that. That would be crazy.
Right. I mean, there are rules in many situations. Sometimes the rules go out the window, but sometimes the rules might become important and it might become like a structure that they need.
Yeah.
At the beginning of them being stranded, they had Coach Ben with them as an authority. And throughout the series, his authority wanes and wanes and wanes. And, I do think there could be something to his authority waning and the rest of them coming up with their own set of rules for survival. So
Yeah.
all kind of TBD. The Bear Down episode. This is again one of the funnier moments between Coach Ben and Misty. Of course, Coach needs to use the bathroom. Misty's giving him a little hand out there. Again, singing some Breakfast at Tiffany's by Deep Blue Something, a total 90s jam. And this moment, it becomes very clear that Ben really has to rely on others to help him with pretty much everything, even the
Yeah.
most basic thing of going to the bathroom.
Yeah. He can't do, and I mean, it has to be like so hard learning how to redo everything like without having that balance of having two full legs, like in normal circumstances, let alone being like stranded in the middle of the woods with like no medical care, no like no proper crutches, no proper rehabilitation, like so like it's not surprising that he has to rely on everybody for everything. Like you would have to rely on everybody for everything if you were in the normal world, but it's even more so out there because they have so much more that they have to combat with and deal with.
Yes, they absolutely do. And, this kind of goes back to how good of an actor Steven Krueger is to play this role of somebody who is an amputee and who's lost their leg. So, putting himself in that frame of mind to really show like the internal and external struggle that he's going through as a character, I think really speaks to his ability as an actor. So,
Yeah.
I mean, props to Steven Krueger. He just absolutely nails this role from
That
start to
scene
finish.
where he like falls off the porch and he just like starts like slamming the ground and like screaming like fuck you because he's so frustrated because like he can't even sit upright and like hold his balance. Like that scene, like when he smacks Misty in the face and like gives her a bloody lip, like that was a really powerful scene. He performed that really well.
It was. And, I mean, again, the girls become his caregivers from going to the bathroom to even, early on when they're relocating from the plane wreckage to the cabin, they
Yep.
fashion him the stretcher and they carry him. And it's got to be, I would imagine, somewhat emasculating for him to be
Oh yeah.
cared for by a group of teenage girls. I mean, this was not what he signed up for,
No.
going on this national soccer trip. Not at all.
Yeah, he even says in that scene, like, why couldn't I have just died? Like, when he falls on the ground, like, he would rather have died than have to deal with the fact that he has to live life the way that he's living life now.
And I mean, it's hard to blame him. I can't imagine, the trauma that he experiences out
Yeah.
here, along with all of the rest of them. I mean, it's enough trauma to be in a plane crash, but take it to the next level, you lose a limb. And for him,
Yeah.
that trauma is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Pretty
We
intense.
have
And
someone in the comments saying, what if Coach Ben survives?
oh my God, who is that? Let's see. It is Naruso 813. Ooh. What if he survives? I mean, what if he survives? That is a really good question. Emily, I mean, what do you think adult Coach Ben would be like in the present day timeline?
I feel like he would be a mess. Like, what comes to mind? Like, have you ever seen Forrest Gump?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like Lieutenant Dan, like that's what comes to mind. Like drinking, like just not in a good headspace, like really, really struggling with life. Like,
Right, right. I guess the only silver lining would be once he gets back to civilization, he could probably at least get some kind of a prosthetic. So,
yeah, that's
that's
true.
something I feel like. But yeah, I mean, I have this mental block in my head where I don't see him making out of the
No.
wilderness. So I have a hard time even envisioning that. Is there
Yeah.
anyone else in the comments that thinks Coach Ben is going to make it out of the wilderness? We'd love to hear from you. What would 2021/2022/23 Ben look like? I don't know. We'll have to find out. One more thing to note from the Bear Down episode. This is when Coach Ben gives them lessons with the gun and teaches them how to hunt. And I think it's important to note that he still has some level of authority over the group at this point because he's able to successfully, tell them what to do and organize it and make it like a good system. So he's still an authority figure here at this point, before things really fall apart when, Laura Lee takes flight during Flight of the Bumblebee. But at this point, he is still an adult and an authority figure. So
Yeah, and they respect him, like, because at the beginning of that episode, Travis is like playing around with the gun and like tries to shoot a squirrel, and Ben comes out and he says, like, give me the gun now. And he says, this is a dangerous weapon and we will treat it as such. And they all respect that and they listen to him. So at this point in time, like, they still look to him for guidance.
Yep, absolutely. And they still respect him.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. We have another comment. Miss Pineapple. The trailer makes him seem like he will die. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, he's pretty prevalent in the trailer. I think that that's intentional, and I think there's going to be a big focus on him. And personally, I think it will culminate in his death, whether it's during this season or the next season. Oh, and we have another one here from Naruso 813. What if he didn't back down from Lottie in the finale?
I think things would be a lot different if he didn't back down from Lottie in the finale.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I mean, that really, like the finale, I mean, he's almost lost his entire impact of the group. Like, it's waning, waning, waning. And by the time the season is over, he's, basically not an adult anymore. The girls have superseded him in terms of authority, I think.
Yeah.
Blood Hive, we see Misty attempting to molest him. And how does that go down exactly?
She comes in when he's asleep and she notices that he has some morning wood and she like reaches out to touch it like a little creeper that she is. And he wakes up and he freaks out, rightfully so. And she she claims that she was like just trying to adjust the blanket and move the blanket. And I think he says like, "Do not fucking touch me, Misty," or something like that.
That is exactly what he says, Emily. He says, "Do not fucking touch me, Misty. Do you understand?" I don't think she understands though. Like I don't think she understands. Like she really wants to grab that thing. I mean,
Yeah, Miss Pineapple says that scene makes me cringe every time I see it. Same.
oh my God, same. I mean, like, talk about boundaries. Like, there are no boundaries between him and Misty. I mean, she's seen him like taking a shit in the woods. She's chopped his leg off. She's like grabbing his dick. Like, I mean, like poisons him. There's just so many Misty and Ben situations, you know? There's a lot of interaction between the two of them. Some happier moments, some not happier moments. Oh my God. Boys run from MFQ. Oh my God, our MFQ. And again, like Misty and Ben, like it's a big focus of Coach Ben is his relationship with Misty. Like he's also got a really good relationship with Nat. You know, he seems to really latch on to the fact that she's like the most mature of the group. And you know, they kind of hit it off. But in Blood Hive, that's the episode when there's the seance. Coach Ben isn't really paying attention to what's going on. Why?
Because Misty poisoned him.
Yes, and he got very sick, and it seems like if he was feeling okay and, you know, really realized what was going on, he probably would have put a stop to it, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, because in the beginning of that episode is when they are all dancing to "This Is How We Do It," and the speaker stops, or the little cassette player stops working, and they start talking about the ghost, and he says like, "I think the ghost would want us all to get some sleep." Like he just shut it down immediately.
Right, right. Absolutely. In the episode Saints, this is the one where Coach Scott gives Travis all of the condoms. And we have a comment in there. Emily, you want to pull up Sailor Moon's comment? I feel like this is actually pretty insightful. What does she say? Or what do they say?
Guys, on the condoms part, aren't these coaches in America also do sex ed classes? Maybe this is why he had so many condoms. And I never thought about it that way. And that's totally possible.
It is, because you know what's interesting about that is when he gives the condoms to Travis, he kind of like, you know, gives him like a little talk, like a little like, you know, we're like bros, like here's your condoms type thing. So I think, you know, there could be something to the sex ed thing. That's very very possible. I like that. We talked about, you know, what are the condoms for? Are they random hookups? Is what the crowd basically said. And they were supposed to be gone for about a week. And what would you say he had, like 30 or more?
I don't know if he had that many.
Okay.
But I mean, he had enough for like to put in your hand like this. So
good amount.
Good amount. Yeah.
Good amount. Flight of the Bumblebee. We briefly mentioned that earlier. I think this episode is really where, you know, him as an authority figure and an adult really starts to go downhill. This is the episode where Coach comes out to Natalie. She directly asks him if he likes guys, and then what does she say? This is a really funny line.
Well, you never look at our boobs.
Yep. And that's a good point. Like, he's not like a nasty creeper trying to get with all the high school girls. Thank goodness, because that's creepy. It's actually the reverse. It's a creepy high school girl trying to get with an authority figure. And he's honest with her and tells her he's got his boyfriend named Paul back home and that they were actually discussing moving in together. And, you know, I love Ben and Nat's relationship. I just feel like there's this sense of comfort. They respect each other, and you know, it's just very, very open. So I think again that speaks to Nat's maturity, and she always has been kind of a moral compass, and I think Coach recognizes that and kind of leans into her for you know, comfort and conversation. And again, in Flight of the Bumblebee, Coach Scott had some hesitations, and Natalie says, if you lost him, you're afraid you'd have nothing left. And I think, you know, as you pointed out, Emily, that moment really bonded Coach Ben and Natalie, and I think really solidified their relationship together.
Yeah. It made him like respect her in a way that he didn't respect her before. I think he views her as more than just like a high school girl now.
Absolutely. And then, of course, Flight of the Bumblebee is when Laura Lee decides to take the plane out. And Coach directly says, "All right, well, I'm still the only adult here. So, no, I'm not going to let you do it." And then what does Laura Lee reply?
What are you going to do to stop me, Coach?
Yep. And, as you pointed out, Emily, this was like the exact moment his authority over the group significantly goes down. Like his
Yeah.
cred as an adult, an authority figure, as a respected person, definitely weakening. And, he's got like the meekest one in the whole bunch, Laura Lee, like who's usually pretty conservative, really standing up to him. And she said she's going to do it whether she wants to or not. So much for
Yeah.
being the responsible adult. And as Showtime Yellowjackets pointed out in their Instagram, Laura Lee, take the wheel.
He even tries, like, when she gets in the airplane to again plead with her to like not do it. And she says something like, "This is my purpose. Like, I have to do this." And like, obviously, we see she does it anyways. But like, up until the moment that she left, like, he was pleading with her not to do it. And she still did it anyways.
And we all know where that got her, right?
Yeah.
So, not only does Coach Ben fail in getting Laura Lee to not fly the plane, which results in her death, but then also, he doesn't really get involved when Jackie goes and sleeps outside either. So I feel like
Yeah.
between those two things, like, I wouldn't say blood on his hands, but maybe a little bit of blood on his hands.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I were him, I would feel guilty about what happened to Laura Lee, even though I didn't do anything, because I still tried to stop her and she still didn't listen to me.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Ooh, we have a couple of comments here. Let's see. Was Coach Ben the actor on Degrassi? I don't know. I don't know.
I watched Degrassi and I don't remember him ever being on it.
Yeah, I never watched Degrassi, so I'm not positive. I can actually, let me see if I still have his biopic. I do not still have that up here, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. But
No, he was in a show called The Originals.
the originals, yep. And he was in the 90210 reboot as well, or
Oh,
not the
really?
reboot, but 90210, which was before the reboot, after the original, before the reboot. There's been a few iterations. Miss Pineapple also noted the most cringeworthy scene in the show, in her opinion, is when Misty confessed to him, and for him to not be poisoned again, he's like, "I like you too," and I had known that he was gay because of the spoilers. So yeah, that is absolutely that was absolutely very, very cringeworthy.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like,
god.
that was a terrible way to respond to being poisoned. Is to tell the girl that poisons you that you like her.
Right. Oh my goodness. And then Kendall Warren, I think Ben might feel guilty and let himself get eaten so the girls can survive.
Hmm.
Wow,
That's
that would be some extreme guilt.
yeah. But I mean, if somebody else dies before he dies, like, I feel like every death that happens, like, he's going to feel some kind of guilt as being the only adult, regardless of whether they're listening to him or they're taking into account what he's saying. Like, he would still feel guilt. I would.
Oh my god, same. I mean, how could you not? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? We have Sailor Moon. He played gay in the originals as well, so he's familiar with playing a gay character. Very cool. And then one more comment really quick. Naruso, I love OG Beverly Hills 90210. Brenda and Dylan forever. I am also team Brenda and Dylan. Totally agree. And if you like it, go check out the Beverly Hills 90210 show. I used to co-host and produce that. So another good podcast. Check it out. But back to Yellowjackets. Doomcoming episode. We mentioned that actually Kaylee, friend of the podcast, mentioned this is one of her favorite moments from a Coach Ben moment from the series, is when Coach Ben congratulates Van and Ty for making their debut at Doomcoming. I think that's an awesome moment, and again, like, helps him feel more comfortable with himself and letting everybody else know his situation. And again, in Doom Coming, that's when he comes out to Misty. He says, "He's my boyfriend, Misty. I'm gay. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. I'm gay. I'm gay. I'm gay. Did you hear that, Mom, Dad? All my furry forest friends, I'm gay." I feel like that would be a good song. I love the furry forest friends, but yeah. A lot happened in Doom Coming, and the mushrooms contributed to some of that, I would say. And
I think they contributed a lot to it.
I mean, right? Like, amazing what some magic mushrooms will do for your state of mind and the things that you say and think.
I'm really honestly surprised that Misty didn't say anything to him about the fact that he came out like the morning after, like when Jackie like freaks out on everybody for what they did, and he says, like, "I'm sure we did a lot on account of the shrooms," and they all realized that they had been on shrooms. Like, I'm really surprised that when she said, like, he tricked me into falling in love with him, that she didn't say, like, he's gay.
Right. Yeah, that is surprising.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And moving into the season 1 finale, when Shauna and Jackie get into their fight, Coach Ben does try to speak up and say, "No, nobody will be sleeping outside." And then what does Lottie tell him?
"Stay out of it, Coach."
I mean, again, shot down by a teenage girl. And, the worst part about it, he listened.
Yeah.
He stayed out of it. He doesn't say another peep. I mean, he just kind of like watches it all unfold, watches Jackie go outside. No big deal. Doesn't think to go outside and get her, check on her. That's a big fail, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's his biggest failure, like, out of the whole experience. Like, he could have easily went outside and said to her, like, "You need to come back inside." And she probably would have if he would have done that. Like, she seems like she was kind of stubborn, but at the same time, I feel like if somebody would have actually went out there and tried to convince her, that she probably would have come back inside. Like, it's very clear Jackie was not meant to be out in the wilderness. Like, she didn't do well out there. So for her to sleep outside, period, was like shocking to me, let alone for it to be cold enough for it to make her freeze to death.
Right. Earlier in the season, she mentions, "If poison ivy is what kills me out here, then I deserve to die." And I mean, I kind of feel the same way about her freezing to death because she puts herself in that situation. Like, I'm not saying she deserved to die, but she did go outside and make the decision to do that. And to my knowledge, none of them had been sleeping outside at all, even before the snow fell. So, like, not smart, Jackie. Like, was she trying to kill herself? I mean, probably not. She didn't know it was going to snow out there, but
Ms. Pineapple says, "I don't think Misty is the type to out someone, though, in regards to saying that Ben is gay, telling everyone that Ben's gay."
Right. But you never know. Misty has a way of using information to suit her.
I feel like it could come up at a later point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. But just from the start of season 1 in the pilot to the finale, I mean, we definitely see a progression of Scott losing himself, and I think ultimately it will end in his death. Oh yes, Miss Pineapple just noted too, I'm pretty sure the only time they slept outside was when the plane first crashed. Yes. So again, like, why is she going to sleep outside? It seems like dramatic, but that's Jackie. She's kind of a drama queen. So she was trying to prove a point, thinking, people are going to come out and get her, and nobody did,
Yeah, exactly.
Sailor Moon had another funny comment. "Jackie strikes me as the type who would notice when someone doesn't stare at her boobs." That's funny. She does notice that. She's the one too that makes the comment when they're saying like Travis is hot and they've only been there for 3 days. She's like, "Guys, like, we've been here for like 3 days or whatever." So she's like very, keenly aware of
It's so funny that she makes that comment, yet she ends up sleeping with Travis.
I know, right? And you know what? It's good she didn't die a virgin. Like she didn't die a virgin. So, at least she's got that going for her. Um let's see. And in terms of Misty killing Coach Ben, I don't think Misty will murder Coach Ben. It's either going to be suicide or the forest doing it. Suicide. I mean, we did talk about that. I mean, like maybe his guilt is so strong. Maybe maybe he gets really sick and he knows like he's going to die anyway. So like he takes his
Yeah.
life, or maybe he asks Misty to. I don't know. Um, or, as Miss Pineapple said, she poisons him again and uses too much and accidentally kills him. There could be something to that because
Yeah.
we know Misty is a poisoner by nature. Her
Yeah.
MO as an adult, she's putting the fentanyl or whatever into the chocolates. She, laces Jessica Roberts cigarettes. So maybe that is her first kill, but it's more inadvertent and it's not intended.
Yeah.
I
That's
feel
totally
like
possible.
that could definitely be a thing. Although, Sailor Moon mentioned, I think when Misty kills, she always gives her victims a choice, like she did with the fixer Jessica Roberts.
Hmm.
Um, so that's interesting too. Maybe she gives him some kind of a choice, whether he knows it's a choice or not.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's definitely a possibility. But I don't know. In summary, I don't think Coach is going to make it out of the wilderness, in my personal opinion.
Mine either.
I
It's
mean,
not likely. He only has one leg. That for me is enough to show like that he's not going to survive, because like he's so dependent on all of them. And what if they don't want to take care of him?
right. And, if there is something to the two shelter theory and they have to actually walk from one shelter to the other, there's no way that he can be transported and go from one shelter to the other. So, no matter what, if he is still alive when they do divide into clans, he's got to be in the cabin clan. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no way that he's walking to the airplane wreckage, to go and be over there. So,
Yeah. That's
whew,
true.
goodness. What else do we have on Ben? I feel like we've spilled pretty well here on Steven Krueger. Um, a specialty spill episode is what we call our character deep dives. And there's the photo of him covering up his ears and the L
Oh
over there.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a progression, right? From like having two legs and being a soccer coach to having one leg and being stuck in a cabin with teenage girls who don't listen to a word you say. It's been quite a journey for our coach Ben Scott in season 1 of Yellowjackets.
Yeah. And there's still a lot more to go.
Yes, there is. And again, because we see so much of him in the trailer, I do think, there is going to be a heavy focus on him in the second season. So
Yeah, I
that
agree.
is something I cannot wait to see more of. Gosh, it's been really fun spilling all about Coach Ben Scott. Is there anything else? Anyone in the comments? Do you have any other questions or comments to add about Coach Ben? Anything related to condoms or Paul or Misty killing him? Not seeing any other comments come in. So why don't we call it good? We're almost at the hour mark. It has been so much fun spilling all about Coach Ben Scott. And we appreciate all of our Hive babes. We hope you will connect with us at yellowjacketshive.com. All of our links are there. And thank you so much for joining us for our specialty spill today.
Yes, and we look forward to the next one.
Absolutely.
Until we spill again.